Okay, so I'm going to bring a brilliant conversation from everybody else's to a little bit of an end there, but I'm going to talk about something completely different. Now, we know currently at the moment, we're talking about manufactured consent when it comes to how media is being controlled, in essence, to feed us with the information that we require at the right time. If you can hark back to way back in March, we had a genuine issue where the market was marketed very, very strongly within media, and people actually got to understand that there was a pandemic, there was a lot of fear in the space, and without going into the flow or the epoch, we call it, of the actual wave of change. If anybody wants to watch that, Gary, if you don't mind putting a link in there, it's episode 7, it's called the Epoch Energetic Phases of Lockdown. And actually fits very beautifully within, it's a Syngas method, that's something that I've written, but it fits beautifully within all change, like war, even home change, you know, work change, anything like that. Thank you, Gary. So the question arises that we were given a lot of fear to start off, which I think was the right action at the time to get us to stop and stop this whirlwind of a brain. Okay, so now we're in kind of month 4. We're in the middle of July, team, and we clearly know that there is going to be a second wave. The second wave is here, but what's happening is, I mean, we can see Ranjit sitting there, Ranjit Sagu, he's in Leicester, he is in lockdown. There you are, waving. He's in lockdown. Now, if you look at the statistical evidence, there's 41 cities now, I think, who have had an R ratio, and R ratio is the reinfection ratio, shoot through the roof. But it's not making main headlines. We're still getting, everything's good, keep going, keep moving out. Now, we had a similar discussion earlier when we spoke about lives matter over economy matters, okay? So we had those two conversations of veins. I'm not taking it there, so I'm not taking in that conversation. All I'm asking you is, what are you actually doing with reference to the second wave and the possible third wave? Is it okay just to ignore the fact that there isn't a inhibitor, or there isn't a vaccine? Or should we just go with the conspiracy conversation, both ends, by the way, of actually just literally seeing, I'm going to be leaning on you very shortly in case you do a runner, V. I can see you down bottom of there, in the V banner. So is it just a hoax? I had somebody who was quite irate with this week gone past on Facebook, and I don't communicate much on Facebook, to be honest. It's all run by APR, the abstract PR. But it was on a bit of news that I shared, and it was very aggressive along the, look, wake up, this is all a lie, it's nothing more than a flu, and only people who are dying, as though this comment actually justifies it, the only people who are dying are the people who had underlying issues. Now, that's not actually true. We all know that, because I know 3 individuals who have definitely passed on, God bless them in the light, and they had no complicated issues. So if this was just a flu, why is it killing people? Because most of us get a flu every year and we're all here, whether we've got underlying issues or not. So my question is a humble question to everybody, and open discussion, by the way. We're not going to go around the houses. My question to you all is that, A, do you believe this is real? B, if it is or isn't, what is your response to currently what's happening? And C, what will you do under the principle that there is going to be a second wave, and we're possibly already in it, and we're not being told through Noam Chomsky's logic of who rules the world, and our current is manufactured consent, where the news is augmented for us, so that we're not actually advised and known. So just a couple of loose questions, and no, I won't pick on you, honestly, V. The first question is, right now, if you don't mind giving some response. Sure. You're in the medical field right now, yeah, where you are. Give us some feel. I mean, honestly, I've spoken to best part of 40+ doctors, you know, and consultants, and each one of them is clearly saying it's a real thing. So please give us a view.
From my perspective, and I've we had a lecture on it to deal with it. So when we go into hospitals to work, our lecturer, he's a pathologist, his name's Dr. Wiesel. We were talking to him about even a possible second wave. And if you look at it, even look at the DNA strands and the structure of this virus, you can actually see it's a serious pathogen. And there's different types of it. So depending on what strand you get, so there's a S strand, there's a L strand, and
Wow.
there's sub-strands of it. So depending on what you get, that your symptoms are based on that. Also, I think people first need to understand the pathogen is called coronavirus. The disease is COVID-19, which is from the subsection of coronavirus. So that when you get the illness, is specific to the individual. So the individual is based around your epigenetics, because one thing, we don't fully inherit disease. Only 1% of the population inherit a disease. The rest is based on epigenetics. Epigenetics is we switch on genocode based on our psychology, our stress levels, our nutrition, etc., etc. And for me, from my understanding, I've had a few people pass away, young and old. There is some serious complications with it, long-term, which they haven't spoken to majority of the public. Fibrosis of the lungs, long-term. Even with the vaccine, we've been hearing vaccines lead to long-term infertility in women. And even vaccines, you know, the question with vaccines, if you look into the history of vaccines, they're not always great. So if you were to ask my opinion, is it serious? It is very serious. It's definitely not a flu, because if you look from a pathological side of it, a flu only attacks the upper respiratory tract.
Mm-hmm.
This thing hits the whole upper and lower respiratory. So it hits you on a different level. The other thing with this, the flu doesn't cause a cytokine storm where it's, you know, your immune system responds so aggressively against COVID-19. And I'm not trying to create fear around this. I think if you live in fear, firstly, the biggest principally point I try and make with people, have faith, because as soon as you're in a state of fear, you weaken your immune system. So try not to live by fear, but live responsibly. And I know the reason why the governments have opened it up, I'll share something. Even, I know there was some noise with protests around Black Lives Matter, and people went out on the streets. But if you look at the media actually encouraged that. The reason for it is something called herd immunity, which the government spoke about from day one. They need everyone to get infected. So what they do is they go through containment phases. We're going through a containment phase, and now we're released again. They know people are going to go out, and the second wave, normally because people don't bother as much, is a lot worse. So they'll get infected. It's all to do with the NHS threshold, so it doesn't collapse. But yeah, my mamaji, he's got quite a few big, uncle. He's got quite a few biogen companies in America, and they're trying to work on this vaccine for the government. And frankly, it is very serious. And if you were to ask me what I've spoken to doctors about, we're more than likely to get this second wave around end of October, November. But I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. That's a, wow, what amazing light. This is the beautiful conversation that we were trying to achieve. Rav, can I have you just to discuss a little bit more about the stress connection with immune and whatever else you've got to share? Thank you, Rav.
I was just going to say I agree 100% with V. It's the same stuff I teach. In fact, you explained it so well. That that's the best I've ever heard it explained. So thank you for that. And what I was gonna say, yeah, if I'm gonna touch on the immune system, yeah, that's exactly it. The fear and the different hormones, different, I guess even neurotransmitters that are created in the body when you're in fear will knock your immune system. It will improve your immune system as well as decrease it. But usually with all these things, it's not the virus itself that harms us. It's our immune response. It's our immune system that overreacts, or that's what causes the problem. I think that's I'm hopefully that that's what that's what I heard as well from your explanation. But I wanted to touch on something else. So I was really into like, yes, this is a conspiracy, you know, right at the beginning, until, you know, then you look more into it and you think, actually, no, this is a real thing. And someone like myself who I don't trust the government, but at the same time, there's this thing that is actually real. So it's like, I don't like the idea of vaccines, and I don't like any of that. So I was in a bit of a dilemma. But what I've also realized is, what's really brought it home to me that this virus is real is that I'm part of the Wim Hof community as well on Facebook. And just recently, one of the main guys on there who runs that Facebook group, he's one of the other instructors. So Wim Hof is the breathing technique, which improves your immune system, makes you more resilient to stress and all that kind of stuff. But what's happened is one of the instructors got COVID, and he did the breathing. He had all the symptoms, he did the breathing, and he brought his symptoms down. So they just went away. But 1 or 2 weeks later, he's now in a hospital on a respirator, because like what V sort of hinted at is this virus, it kind of goes deep. So yes, you can get rid of the symptoms, but it started to really attack his lungs. So now he's on a ventilator. So, and these are people who are really into the health, really into, you know, you know, they are fanatics when it comes to natural health. And I thought, oh my God, that really hit home. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say is like, if anyone's still in that conspiracy thing, I think it means to start opening our minds a little bit more and really start taking this more seriously.
Thank you very much for that, Rav, and thank you very much. And Dil?
Hi. So I just heard something interesting from a BBC reporter. He said, if you look at the Chinese government's actions rather than what they say, that'll give you the real picture of what's going on. And if you apply that logic to the UK, it takes years to build a hospital. The government built 7 within less than a month. So they know something that they can't tell the public. You never want to trust the government. And the second thing is, if anybody needs to understand how this is going to pan out, just study the Spanish flu of 1918. That'll give you all the stuff. It's going to take 2 years to go through. Be ready for it. And listen, if you die, and I know some people believe in reincarnation, but basically you can't fix that for your family. So it's better to stay alive and take the financial hit and fix the other mess afterwards.
Very, very, very important. Very, 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 very hard hitting home conversation there. Lovely, lovely message.
Yeah, I was going to say that, this virus is real from the kind of sources I've been connecting with as well. So there is something there, right? Whether it's a conspiracy or not,
yeah, that's
still open, right? But the other thing is, the thing is, it's not easy for governments to, they got a crazy job ahead of them to manage crowd control people, right? And we, most of the time, well, not most of the time, but sometimes we think that they're doing the wrong thing. But we don't have the data and statistics they do, and all the things that they need to do in order to look after the country and the people as well. So sometimes it's not, you're right, whether they're transparent in what they're doing, and it's debatable whether they should be sharing more information and stuff with us or not. But we gotta look at them as individuals as well, because the people in government are normal people just like ourselves, right? Whether there's another agenda at play, we don't know. But at the same time, it's human beings and their own kind of emotions are involved. So sometimes the decisions are done under stress, but at the same time, they are trying to look after us and protect us as well.
Yep.
So we have to kind of keep that in mind as well. I mean, look, a simple thing is our water supply could be contaminated so easily, right? So who's looking after that? Our food supply can be contaminated so easily as well. Who's looking after that? So there are certain things in play that, around that. And then there are the other kind of people who are going to take advantage of the situation and try to run their own agendas. But at the end of the day, I think we got to do what we can ourselves to look after ourselves and our family as well. And try not to get caught in any herd mentality just because other people out there not wearing masks and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean, okay, yeah, whatever. I think we got to, be aware of what's going on and then make those decisions and choices. Like I had to go for a hospital appointment with my mom today, right? And, so I went to everybody in the hospital had masks on. They had, the hand sanitizer and all that kind of thing. It was quiet. There weren't like lots and lots of people. Only the people who with appointments came down. But then you look at the staff there. The staff are there every single day in, day out around this thing. We're at home, we're on lockdown, but what about those guys? So, and they're normal people, like the guy at the reception, right? He's sitting there behind the mirror and all that kind of stuff. So I think we just got to be wise in our own thinking, I reckon, and try not to get caught and stressed by social media and all this kind of thing, but look at our own defense mechanisms, and create some intelligence there with ourselves. And just look after where we can. It's like they say, Michael Knight, one man can make a difference, a woman can make a difference, right? So just do your best to look after yourself and others around you. That's what I think. I
subscribe to the fact that women can make a bigger difference, by the way. So, is that okay, Dimps? Is that all right? Yeah, I'm good with that. Okay, no, absolutely, truly true. I mean, and we were speaking earlier on this morning, Jatinder, not to lengthen the conversation, but we were speaking earlier on very specifically about how you actually had a little edge of anxiety before you went out. It was like, crap, what's going on? And you got a hold of it and calmed yourself down, went out and got it sorted.
Something inside just didn't want to go. It was like, oh my goodness, what's going on, right? But I went out, I was doing whatever, had to focus, just look at what was going on. And then I just thought, look, sometimes we as individuals, we worry about ourselves, right? Because that's what we do. But at the same time, we're all in it together. So anybody else out there is just as much risk as yourself. So, I think if we can have, I don't know, it's just like a sense of peace and even inner faith and just go with that. That kind of stuff does help.
Most definitely. And what is due is due, what is written kind of attitude, without being defeatist, but being optimistic about the whole principle. Love it. Thank you very much. Yeah.
It's okay. Hi, can I just share something?
Yeah, please, V.
I know a lot of people are worried, but I think for me, my faith and the way I learned about consciousness and faith has gone a long way. And there was a old saying my grandma used to say in Punjabi. I'll try and translate it. Ki jaake rake saya use maar sake na koi. That if you have faith, you are under, the divine, no one can touch you. And it reminds me of a story quickly of 9/11. There was a guy, I don't know if any of you guys are aware of it. There was a guy who actually jumped off, I think the 5th or 6th floor and survived 9/11. And then when he was going back, he was trying to leave New York. And I think 2 weeks down the line, a plane crashed in New York. And he was actually on that plane. So he got a phobia from planes, but actually then he went on the rail. And the rail train derailed and crashed. But this guy survived 3 major incidents. And that's what I'm trying to say. We worry so much, but I leave it to the Almighty.
God bless. That's an absolute for me as well. And I fully subscribe to that. Thank you for that, V. Please do stay on. Raj?
Well, to add on to what V's just said, really, we shouldn't actually live in fear, because that fear is actually false evidence appearing real. So, if we do go out, yes, be careful, get the PPE, stuff on, and do keep your distance. Now, at the end of the day, look, it's a similar situation that Dee was saying. Many years ago, I was actually on a plane flying to Salt Lake City. And it was dark, It was raining, etc. And we've been flying around for about an hour. And basically, they didn't know whether the landing gear was actually down. So they'd been dumping fuel. So literally the captain basically turned around and said, the co-pilot's coming down to have a look, lift up the carpet, see if the landing gear's down. They couldn't find it. So you could imagine the fear that we all had that we're about to crash land. And, you know, we're about to, either we're going to die, etc., or whatever. And at that point, I actually realized, I said, either I'm going to go or I'm not. There's nothing I can actually do to control that. And I had to just let it go and put my hands together and say, whatever's meant to be is meant to be.
Wow.
And I think that's one of the things that we've got to look at over here is not live in the fear, yet still be careful to keep doing what we need to do.
I truly agree.
And I guess the other thing is, you know, we've all got to learn not to keep shaking hands, etc., and literally put our hands together.
Yeah, without a doubt. Thank you very much for that, Raj. Amazing. So, Rav?
Yeah, mine's a quick one. What Raj said and what we said about accepting and, you know, the Almighty and just sort of surrendering to that, what will be. But, you know, we always assign that to an Eastern type of philosophy. However, that was the philosophy of the UK during the world wars as well. So it's a universal kind of mentality and thinking, which I think is really, really powerful. So as soon as you accept what will be, and I can't remember how, you know, I'm sure someone will know the,
Yes.
I'm not even going to try saying it. So yeah, it's that term that people use. And I think that's really does help. And I think the older generation, they got through times which are a lot tougher than what we're going through right now. And we've got to remember that as well.
To go back to every single faith origination, thank you for that, Rav, right back to even Catholicism, the clarity there is what is in your destiny. It's already going to come through, but there is actually pain in your destiny, and by you meditate and keep yourself positive, you'll actually be able to push that through. So it's a very similar message there. Thank you very much, Rav.
I guess it's me talking from a perspective of someone who's living through a second wave at this moment in time, and what it's like in the area that I live in. So pretty much the kind of East Leicester A47 kind of corridor, so all the neighbourhoods that roll off that main road are affected. My local Gurdwara is in that area, which is affected. So everything's
Got being temple.
Yes, my local temple. Yes, and obviously the city is a ghost town at the moment. The shutters are down, and it's very frustrating watching the news and people are gallivanting out to pubs and restaurants and having their normal life again. And I think the people in Leicester at the moment are feeling that kind of frustration, and I guess the need to want to have normality because everyone else is having it, but at the same time we've got to balance it with the reality that this isn't gone. It's far from gone, and it's going to be here for a long time to come. And I think I was listening to the news this morning. The mayor of Leicester was being interviewed, and his argument was that why is it that the county areas have now been free to open again because they're under Tory control and the city is a Labour city. So they throw politics in there, and you start to kind of confuse yourself what is what and what's true and what isn't. I guess the only truth in all this is that this virus is still around, and people in the area are still contagious. It's still spreading. They've kind of narrowed it down to the fact that there's a lot of sweatshop factories in Leicester which manufacture for Boohoo, for New Look, for Quiz, and they've been working during the pandemic and making people work below minimum wage and working without PPE, and it's spread over the neighbourhoods because these are very narrow terraced houses in Leicester as well. So there is this debate about what we need to do the right thing, but at the same time our heart says we want to be free and we want to go and do things as normal again. And I think that's the dilemma I have, the conscious dilemma I'm going through, where I want to be able to just do something normal again, but at the same time we're working really hard to be safe.
To add to that a little bit, sorry to cut in there if it felt like that, but I wasn't. I was really excited to say something very specific, Reggie. There is the situation, and we haven't come out of lockdown or isolation due to the fact that we're shielding my father. our father. So and ourselves as well, and the kids, they haven't gone back to school, all these little things. So just don't feel as though you're the only one there. We actually are living in our grounds. We're not moving out either. So just be having that there as well. I think it'd be sensible in that space, just to give you some understanding.
Yeah, I wanted to say, I've just come back from Birmingham. I was there for 2 weeks. I spent some time with my parents. I haven't seen them since beginning of March. No, it's been about 4 months since I've seen them. They're both in their 80s. My mum has Alzheimer's. My dad's got health issues, got blood pressure. He's had a heart attack previously, and so on and so forth. So I've just spent 2 weeks there. And during those 2 weeks, I left the house just the once. Apart from to go to the garden, I mean, physically left the house to go, because I had to go and get some stuff for my mum. So I got on a bus, masked up and everything, went into Birmingham town centre, and originally I thought, you know what, I'm going to go out, I'm going to have a mooch around town, I haven't been out. Seriously, JT, I know how you're feeling, because I literally got off the bus, went straight to Marks and Spencer's, got what I needed to get,
straight out,
right back on the bus and straight back home. And then what I did, got back to Dad's, I shouted, Dad, I'm home, straight upstairs, showered, stripped off my clothes, put on fresh clothes and everything, before I went and said hello to Mom and Dad and whatever. Right. So that was the first time that I actually felt uncomfortable leaving the house. I went there all like full of bravado, bit of peace, bit of escape, you know, whatever. But actually, I couldn't wait to get back home. And then on top of that, because one of my brothers, he's been diagnosed with cancer, and his treatment was due to start on Monday actually, but one of his sons is asymptomatic with COVID. So they've had to go into isolation again for 14 days, and they've all been tested. They're all okay. Now his treatment's now been delayed by a week because of that. This is still very, very real. So we're protecting those around us, our loved ones, as much as we can. We've all said to my brother, while you're having your treatment, we are not going to come and see you. You need to be isolated from us so that you can get well, recover. We don't need to be there. We'll get messages. We'll know you're okay. That's all that matters. So this thing is still real. While sitting in this house, looking outside, it's all lovely. The sun's shining, there's a bit of breeze. But what I see is people just wandering around like it doesn't matter. There's nothing going on. There is something going on. We just need to be more aware of it ourselves, not be frightened by it. As soon as you get frightened by it, you're on a downward slope. Just be aware of it and take care of yourself. And therefore, by taking care of yourself, you're taking care of those around you.
Thank you. That is such a great message as well. Parwinder, it was your go as well. Thank you very much for that, Manjeet.
Yeah. So yeah, I was going to say the same to Ranjit. Like we're shielding people here as well. So there's a lot of people that are still in the same situation as they were in March. So for everybody, and we're probably exactly the same position as you are in terms of not go, and you choose to do that, right, for the people that you care about as well. And I had a similar experience to Manjeet, when it's like you're okay when you think to go to somewhere, and then I was like, no, actually it's not okay. And only the things that you really need to do still, because we don't have the complete picture, we don't have the full information, and even the experts don't have the full explanations that we're looking for either. So we've got to go with our gut on that as well, and our intuition on that as well. And brilliant. I love the JT, Raj, the things that you shared about those aspects that you shared in terms of medical and immune system. Completely agree. Like you can have somebody that's in fear and scarcity, and you can fear and anxiety, and you can have somebody who's is conscious and aware, not being foolish, but then at the same time not buying into the fear either. And they can have the same disease, or it can relate to other diseases as well, but one of them will fight it off better and the other won't. So it's not just based on what you're hit with, it's based on how you are going to react and what you do mentally as well as physically, as well as what you're eating. And that's where the control is within ourselves, and each person is, how are you managing to build your immune system? How are you protecting your family? How are you eating and drinking and keeping yourself and your family safe? So those things are very much in our own control, and the other things are variables that we have to live and adapt around as well.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for that,
yeah.
Belinda.
Rav, really thank you for your shares.
Yeah,
It was
great
really
updates.
brilliant.
But Bindi, I know you also only a day or so, or 2 days or a day ago, couldn't actually attend one of our business boardroom masterminds because of the fact that you had a slight complication and you had to travel out as well. So please do help and understand. Share.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I've got a problem with my left shoulder. It's called a vascular necrosis of the femoral head, which is the bone here that connects into your shoulder socket. So I've got no tissue, bone tissue there. It's all corroded basically. And it's been going on since 2012, but on and off. But gradually this year I've noticed, I mean, in the mornings, I can't even pick up a cup of coffee on my left arm unless I stand up for 10 minutes.
Wow.
And let my body, blood come, my body get used to the gravity. So I've got an X-ray on Tuesday, and I'm really worried about going into because of the COVID situation. And with having brittle bones as well, hospital is like my second home, unfortunately for me, with 45 fractures over the years. But I am a little concerned, but there's nothing I can do. I'm just going to pray, wish my day goes well, and that's all I can do. I'll leave it there.
Yeah, and as you said there, pray, keep positive, keep your mindset clear, and at least it gives you a chance of your immune system to stay bumped up a little bit if it can. I fully get that. Yeah.
Generally the hospitals are quite quiet at the moment. Like today, they had the rooms that we went to. They had like spaces between the seats and all that kind of thing. So it's been quite good. Yeah, it's quite good in what they're doing. They got people at every kind of main place with masks and cleaning solutions and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I was going to say the same, because my brother went for his checkups after he got diagnosed and stuff when we all went into lockdown, and he said it's like military precision when you go into hospital. There's one-way systems, there's people at elevators, so just allay those fears and go and do what you need to do, and then we'll see you next week on Friday.
And wear a mask though. Yeah. Definitely wear the mask, because the mask does stop a hell of a lot of it. Who was that?
Sometimes they do provide you they do provide you with masks at the hospital.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you're going in, they will provide you with sterilizers and everything. You got more of a risk going to a shopping center than going to a hospital at the moment.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that input there, V.
Yeah, I think I'm hearing what everybody's saying, and I think the bottom line is it comes down to us all to protect ourselves, to protect everybody else. I had to go and get a blood test done at the beginning of the week, and knowing that now we're going into the scenario where we all have to wear masks going to the shops, I thought, well, I'm going to get in early. I'm going to get used to it. We've been doing it, so let's carry on doing what we've been doing. And it's surprising now how used to wearing a mask I've actually got. It's like second nature. And what came to mind was, as I was walking through the shopping centre, and I've told a number of people this already, as I've walked into the shopping, every single shop is now prepared and ready for this. I know they had to be before they opened, but you only have to go through a shopping centre and you look at every single doorway, and there's an in and there's an out. There are cleaning fluids on every stand before you go into the shops. There are regular cleaning fluids, and even at the surgery, they won't allow you in the surgery. You have to wait outside in the communal area, which is sort of waste space, loads of space. As long as we all keep social distancing, they come to you. They take one of you in at a time so that nobody is contaminated, as it were. Again, they have the one-way system. And I think we just have to be aware that as long as we're doing everything we can, that's the best that we can do to protect ourselves when we have to go out, as long as it's only when necessary and not frivolously.
Thank you. So, Parvinder, some quick word from yourself, if you don't mind.
Yeah, just going on from Jatinder and Bindi. So I had to go in to see my surgeon yesterday. And one thing I would say is, some things are being referred. I was lucky that I was at the private hospital. Some things are being referred, and you can see if you can request to see the same surgeon at a different time at the private hospitals, which I know they're not taking COVID patients in, like this particular one that I've been to. So I felt they had done so many precautions. They're not taking COVID patients. They're doing the tests at the door. They're giving you masks. They're all aware. I had a meeting with the senior nurse, and she said to me, "You're brave, really brave, coming in for your operation and actually having an operation in the height of COVID." And I was like, I had no choice. And she was like, "I'm worried. I've just come back into a new job." And she goes, "It's really a lot to deal with for me. You know, we're having masks. We're not being able to see people's expressions. We're having to deal with everything very differently." And she gave me an insight into her world of coming back in and having to deal with all the things that they're having to deal with and the precautions they're taking, not just for themselves, for everybody else as well.
Thank you very much for that. Chris, do you want to be adding on there, or Kieran, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I would say, like, from the behaviour I've seen in people in central London hasn't been behaving as it should. I mean,
I agree.
2 weeks ago when the restaurants opened, it was absolutely insane, especially around Soho. And I just wish people would pay a little more attention there, because it's going to backfire on us, and it's going to backfire spectacularly. And that's what I have to say.
Totally agree with that, Chris. You've got a reality of one main thing, that at the end of the day, a person can remember to be social distancing, but as soon as they've had an alcohol or some kind of intoxication or anything, how can they remember that? You know, they're hardly going to remember the name. Honestly, do you know what? A wonderful, wonderful discussion, and I hope each every one of you has actually enjoyed it. I personally would like to thank each and every one of you for being a part of the Inspire Tribe and the Feel Good Friday socials. Thank you very much, everybody. Please, same time next week, and please bring more people in. Thank you very much for introducing new individuals. Thanks, V, for being new. Romy, for staying with us as well towards the end. Please, if you can, do me a favor. V, if I haven't got your details, do send it to me. If I don't get it from yourself, then Bindi, please send it to me as well. I'll add them to that. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful start to the weekend. Take care.
Thank you very much. Very nice.
Okay.
Bye.